Hi there, today we're going to talk about proportions. A proportion is a number sentence with two equal ratios. Now, a ratio is just a comparison of two numbers. It can be written in three separate ways. A over B. If I have the ratio A to B, I would also call that A to B. Or I can write it as A with a colon and then B. So if I want to find a proportion, if I want to solve a proportion, all I'm going to do is I'm going to make equivalent fractions or equivalent ratios. So for example, if I have the ratio 2 to 3, I want to know is the same as blank to 18. So there are a few ways that you can do this. I'm going to show you three separate ways to figure this out. One is going to be using equivalent fractions. One is going to be using something I call the fish method. And then one is going to be using an algebraic equation. So the first way here would be if I write these as a fraction. 2/3 is equal to a number that's unknown over 18. Now, in math, we always represent an unknown with a variable, so I'm going to call that x. So what I'm wanting to do is if I have an equivalent fraction or equivalent ratio, that means that whatever you multiply this fraction by, it will turn into this fraction. So to get from 3 to 18, I'm going to go times 6. Well, we know with equivalent fractions, if whatever we do to the denominator, we must also do to the numerator. So I would do 2 times 6, and that is going to be 12. So my answer here is going to be 2 to 3 is the same as 12 to 18. So x is going to equal 12 here. 2 goes into 12 6 times, 3 goes into 18 6 times. Okay, this is the first way to do this. The second way to do this is using something called the fish method. Now, the fish method still uses equivalent fractions. It comes more in handy when these numbers don't multiply perhaps right off the top of your head. So, the way we're going to do this fish method is you are going to cross multiply, then divide. Cross multiply, then divide. So what I mean by that is you're going to multiply the two numbers and divide by the leftover, which will lead you to the variable. And the reason it's fish is because when I draw this out, it makes a fish. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take 18 times 2 and then divide by 3. 18 times 2, so 18 times 2, divide 3. 18 times 2 is 36. 36 divided by 3 is 12. So my answer would be 12. That is the second method. The third method is going to be using an algebraic equation. Now, what that means is you're going to have an equation that involves a variable. So how we're going to do that is by using cross multiplication. So if I have 2/3 is equal to x over 18, I'm going to cross multiply both of these and set it up as an equation. So I'm going to take 3 times x, I'm going to take 2 times 18. 3 times x would be 3x. And I'm going to set that equal to 18 times 2, which is 36. Now, we remember from our one-sub equations, if I want to get rid of a multiplication equation, I just need to divide. So I'm going to take 36 and divide it by 3, and x is going to be 12. No matter which of those three ways you do this, you're always going to get the same answer. I would suggest doing these when this number, whichever number you're switching over, is easily multiplied in. This will work anyway, and so will this, with any numbers that you ever have. So let me show you a couple more examples. So if I want to solve this proportion, I'm going to say 5 over 6 is equal to x over 168. Now, I can show you the 3 ways, but since this is one off the top of my head, I don't know how many times 6 fits into 168. I would not suggest using the equivalent fractions method. I would suggest using fish, but I'll show you the equivalent fractions method. So I'm going to take 168 and I'm going to divide it by 6 because I need to figure out what my multiplier is. 6 goes into 16 2 times. 6 times 2 is 12. It's going to leave me with 4. Bring down my 8. 6 fits into 48 8 times. 6 times 8 is 48, which leaves me with a remainder of 0. So that means that I am multiplying 6 by 28 to get to 168. So if I'm doing this equivalent fractions method, I'm going to say 6 times 28 gets me to 168, which means I also need to multiply 5 times 28. Well, 5 times 28, I'm going to come out here to the side. As you can see, this takes a little bit more time. 8 times 5 is 40. 2 times 5 is 10. Plus 4 would be 140. So my answer here is going to be 140. All right. The second method would be using fish. If I do that, I get 5 over 6 is equal to x over 168. Okay, I'm going to take 168 times 5 and then divide it by 6. You can use your calculator, or you can come out here to the side and do it long ways if you'd like. 168 times 5, that's going to be 40. 30 plus 4 is 34, and then 5 plus 3 is 8. So I'm going to get 840. And then I need to divide it by 6. Again, this will be easier with a calculator. 840 divided by 6. 6 fits into 8 one time. Bring down your 2, bring down your 4. 6 fits into 24 4 times. 6 times 4 is 24, which leaves me with 0. I still have the 0 over here, though, so I have to bring it down. And then I have to say how many times does 6 fit into 0? Well, obviously that's 0. So my answer, again, is 140. The last step is to make an algebraic equation. To do that, it's going to be cross multiply. 6x and then 168 times 5. Well, that would give us 6x equals 840. And then again, we divide, and x would be 140. Okay, all 3 ways give you the same answer. Again, you can just pick whichever one is the easiest for you. I would suggest using a calculator on this, but again, as you can see, you can do it long ways, just takes a little bit extra time. Now, let's say you have one that has a decimal. Now, on this one, I'm only going to show the fish method, so it's my favorite method, so that's what I'm going to choose to use. Although, this one you might be able to do in your head by just looking at it. 5.2 is turning into 10.4, and I want to know what number would turn into 6. Now, if you notice, our proportion is set up a little differently here, so we're actually going to make our fish the opposite way. So I'm going to take 5.2 times 6, and then I'm going to divide that by 10.4. If I do 5.2 times 6 in my calculator, pull that up for you. Okay, 5.2 times 6 is going to equal 31.2. And then I'm going to divide that by 10.4. And that's going to equal 3. So in this case, x is equal to 3. So 31.2 divided by 10.4 equals 3. Now, as you can see, you could have looked at this and seen, well, 5 times 2 is 10, 0.2 times 2 is 0.4. So you know that it's going up by 2, which means I could divide backward and say 6 divided by 2 is also 3. Any way that you choose to solve these out of these three ways will work, as long as you have the problem set up correctly. Okay, the last one we're going to do here is a word problem. Okay, so let's say I have a ratio of 5 wins to 2 losses. And I want to predict if I win 15 games, how many will I lose? Now this is a prediction. If I know that my ratio is 5 to 2, 5 wins to 2 losses, and I know that I'm winning 15 games, I need to figure out how many I'm going to lose. So my ratio is 5 to 2 wins to losses. This is important. When you're setting up a word problem, you need to match up your words. So I know that this other side also needs to be wins to losses. If you don't set it up correctly, if you put the number on the wrong spot, your answer is not going to work out. So I have wins to losses over wins to losses. Now, then I go back into my word problem. Okay, I know I have 5 wins. I have 2 losses. And if I win 15, so I know in the wins column, I need to put 15. And I want to know how many losses would I have. So I don't know that one. This is one we could probably do in our head, because I know that 5 times 3 gets me to 15. So I should expect that if I win 15 games, I would lose 6. Again, you could do fish. You would get, I will show you here. You would get 15 times 2. Oops, sorry, that should be an X. 15 times 2, which is 30, divided by 5 is going to be, this was 30. 30 divided by 5 is going to be 6. So as you can see, works either way. And that is how you solve a proportion. Please like and subscribe to my channel. Please leave any comments on videos you'd like to see made over what math subjects you would like to learn about, and I would be happy to make them for you. Have a great day.